CBS News special report. I'm Nora O'Donnell in the nation's capital. President Biden is about to mark a sobering milestone. 500,000 coronavirus deaths in the U.S. That is more American lives lost on the battlefield in World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam War combined. Earlier this evening, the White House lowered its flags to half-staff to mark the 500,000 lives lost. It's a number that was unthinkable 1 year ago when the virus began its rapid spread throughout the world. I'm joined now by CBS News Chief Washington Correspondent Major Garrett. And Major, what are we expected to hear from the president?
Well, the president's going to say this is another milestone the country has to wrap its mind, its arms, and its sense of action around. And for those who are thinking, well, wait a minute, we're still going through mitigation efforts. Why aren't they working? They are working, but vulnerable populations remain vulnerable. And those populations affected by this have faced devastating consequences. Here's the president.
Each day, I receive a small card in my pocket that I carry with me in my schedule. It shows the number of Americans who have been affected by or died from COVID-19. Today, we mark a truly grim, heartbreaking milestone. 500,071 dead. That's more Americans who have died in 1 year in this pandemic than in World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam War combined. That's more lives lost to this virus than any other nation on earth. But as we acknowledge the scale of this mass death in America, we remember each person and the life they lived. They're people we knew. They're people we feel like we knew. Read the obituaries and remembrances. The son who called his mom every night just to check in. The father's daughter who lit up his world. The best friend who was always there. The nurse and nurses, but the nurse who made her patients want to live. I was just in Kalamazoo, Michigan, at the Pfizer vaccine manufacturing facility. There I met a man when I walked in whose father-in-law was dying of the virus. He was sad. I asked if I could call his father-in-law. He said his father-in-law was too sick to speak. But then he said, but could I pray for him? Could I pray for him? We all know someone, fellow Americans who live lives of struggle, purpose, and of hope, who talked late into the night about their dreams, who wore the uniform born to serve, who loved, played, and always offered a hand. We often hear people described as ordinary Americans. There's no such thing. There's nothing ordinary about them. The people we lost were extraordinary. They spanned generations. Born in America, immigrated to America. But just like that, so many of them took their final breath alone in America. As a nation, we can't accept such a cruel fate. While we've been fighting this pandemic for so long, we have to resist becoming numb to the sorrow. We have to resist viewing each life as a statistic or a blur or on the news. We must do so to honor the dead, but equally important, care for the living, those who left behind, for the loved ones left behind. I know all too well. I know what it's like to not be there when it happens. I know what it's like when you are there, holding their hands. There's a look in your eye and they slip away. That black hole in your chest, you feel like you're being sucked into it. The survivor's remorse, the anger, the questions of faith in your soul. For some of you, it's been a year, a month, a week, a day, even an hour. And I know that when you stare at that empty chair around the kitchen table, it brings it all back, no matter how long ago it happened, as if it just happened that moment when you look at that empty chair. The birthdays, the anniversaries, the holidays without them. And the everyday things, the small things, the tiny things that you miss the most. That scent when you open the closet. That park you go by that you used to stroll in. That movie theater where you met. The morning coffee you shared together. The bend in his smile. The perfect pitch to her laugh. I received a letter from a daughter whose father died of COVID-19 on Easter Sunday last year. She and her children, his grandchildren, enter Lent this season, a season of reflection and renewal, with heavy hearts. Unable to properly mourn, she asked me in the letter, what was our loss among so many others? Well, that's what has been so cruel. So many of the rituals that help us cope, that help us honor those we loved, haven't been available to us. The final rites with family gathered around, the proper homegoing, showered with stories and love, tribal leaders passing out the final traditions of sacred cultures on sacred lands. As a nation, we cannot and we must not let this go on. That's why the day before my inauguration, at the COVID-19 memorial, at the reflecting pool, at the National Mall, I said, to heal, we must remember. I know it's hard. I promise you, I know it's hard. I remember. But that's how you heal. You have to remember. And it's also important to do that as a nation. For those who have lost loved ones, this is what I know. They're never truly gone. They'll always be part of your heart. I know this as well, and it seems unbelievable, but I promise you, the day will come when the memory of the loved one you lost will bring a smile to your lips before a tear to your eye. It will come, I promise you. My prayer for you, though, is that day will come sooner rather than later. And that's when you know you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And for me, the way through sorrow and grief is to find purpose. I don't know how many of you have lost someone a while ago wondering, is he or she proud of me now? Is this what they want me to do? I know that's how I feel. And we can find purpose. Purpose worthy of the lives they lived and worthy of the country we love. So today, I ask all Americans to remember. Remember those we lost and those who left behind. But as we all remember, I also ask us to act, to remain vigilant, to stay socially distanced, to mask up, get vaccinated when it's your turn. We must end the politics and misinformation that's divided families, communities in the country. It has cost too many lives already. It's not Democrats and Republicans who are dying from the virus. It's our fellow Americans. It's our neighbors, our friends, our mothers, our fathers, our sons, our daughters, husbands, wives. We have to fight this together as one people, as the United States of America. That's the only way we're going to beat this virus, I promise you. The only way to spare more pain and more loss, the only way. These millstones no longer mark our national mourning. These milestones, I should say, no longer mark our national mourning. Let this not be a story of how far we fell, but of how far we climb back up. We can do this. For in this year of profound loss, we've seen profound courage from all of you on the front lines. I know the stress, the trauma, the grief you carry, but you give us hope. You keep us going. You remind us that we do take care of our own, that we leave nobody behind, and that while we've been humbled, we have never given up. We are America. We can and will do this. In just a few minutes, Jill and I, Kamala and Doug, will hold a moment of silence here in the White House, the people's house, your house. We ask you to join us, to remember so we can heal, to find purpose in the work ahead, to show that there is light in the darkness. This nation will smile again. This nation will know sunny days again. This nation will know joy again. And as we do, we'll remember each person we've lost, the lives they lived, the loved ones they left behind. We will get through this, I promise you. But my heart aches for you, those of you who are going through it right now. May God bless you all, particularly those who've lost someone. God bless you.
An incredible moment from the President of the United States in the role of consoler-in-chief, a man who buried his first wife and two of his children, who knows a great deal about grief, sadly, trying to share with many of you at home and many of us who have felt the profound loss from this pandemic and what it has wrought in the past year. He said to heal, we must remember. And that's why now you see that is the south portico of the White House, where there are candles lit up because they want to have a moment of silence at sunset, to remember, as the president said. You need to remember in order to heal. Major Garrett, you have followed this president for many years, even when he was a senator.
Yep.
And this is the type of speech that only Joe Biden can give.
Sure, and it's always a temptation to set the bar where it has been set in American history by Franklin Delano Roosevelt during the Great Depression, the fireside chat speeches, which were designed to rally the country, hold the country together, give it a sense that all was not lost. They could find purpose and find a way out of a very dark time. This is a dark time. I won't say this was like a fireside chat, but those intimate details that the president talked about, things that people remember, a park where they first met, the crinkle of a smile, what it feels like to have coffee together. Those are things right out of FDR's fireside chats, bringing a president very, very close to intimate moments of suffering across households in this country. By design, the president wants to send a signal that he knows something, not everything, but something about grief, something about individual grief, something about national grief. And by saying that there can be purpose found, the struggle is real, we will experience joy again. He, like Franklin Delano Roosevelt, is trying to show a way out, but not in any way glossing over the pain we're all feeling at the moment.
500 candles there on the stairs leading up to the Blue Room. This is known as the South Portico of the White House. This is where we've seen moments of silence from previous presidents. It's where you see them welcome dignitaries. Let's go to Ed O'Keefe, our senior White House correspondent. And Ed, you heard the president say that for him, the way to get through grief is to find a purpose.
That's right. As you guys outlined there, this is someone so uniquely equipped to talk about grief and loss. Those lines about the pain of not being there when it happens, a reference to his first wife, Nelia, and their young daughter who were killed in a Christmas-time car crash. And then to be there holding the hand of the person as they slip away is a reference to his grown son, Bo, who, of course, died a few years ago of brain cancer. The line there also about the hope that at some point soon the memory of the person who's passed brings a smile to your face rather than a tear to your eye is one that he repeats often when he talks to people about grief at funerals and whatnot. And here now they come out to the South Portico for a moment of silence. They'll be joined by the Vice President, the second gentleman, and First Lady Jill Biden.
And we will pause when that moment of silence comes. The president also beginning his remarks today by saying we have to resist becoming numb to the virus. Let's pause now. Moment of silence and amazing grace. 500 candles at the White House as the president and the vice president remember and pay tribute to the now 500,000 lives lost to COVID-19. Our coverage will continue on our 24-hour streaming network, CBSN. You can watch it at cbsnews.com or on our CBS News app. There's going to be more in your local news and on this CBS station, and we'll have more tonight on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News special report. I'm Nora O'Donnell, CBS News, Washington.